Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Barbeno's World. Right now I'm standing in front of this really big dragon statue that I designed here in creative mode, and I showed you a schematic for this in the last episode, which you might have seen, but I said that today I was going to explain a little bit more about how I designed it. I didn't actually build most of this by hand. I actually used a bunch of tricks that made designing this dragon quite a bit easier. So first off, this dragon is actually based off of a 3D model that I got from the internet made by Jason Schumar. So here's the model. I just downloaded this as an STL file. Then in order to convert the 3D model that I had into Minecraft blocks, I used another online tool. That's a voxelizer. I just uploaded the 3D model here, and I'll put a link to it in the description. It was actually incredibly simple. All I had to do is basically change these settings until I got it to the size that I want. And it was something like this, and this tool actually supports exporting 3D files as Minecraft schematics, which is super cool. And I just chose that I wanted it to be made out of red nether bricks. And from there, I just pasted it into Minecraft. I think this is the original one that I had. It was sideways, so I was trying to play with World Edit to rotate it, because you can't just rotate it like upside down and sideways with Lightmatica. So I was having some troubles with that. I made it a lot of different wrong ways. Eventually, I got it to this. But now that we have this basic shape of it, I needed to do a little bit more tweaks to smooth out the edges and make the shape a little bit nicer. I just did that manually by placing down some blocks. Okay, and to actually add the block variation and coloring to the dragon, I pulled up a few Dungeons and Dragons images for reference, and then I used the World Edit mod to kind of paint on the colors using this really cool brush command. So basically this brush makes it so that you can draw with spheres of blocks, and you can set it to any block and just have it draw like this. But instead of drawing with big spheres of blocks, I just want to paint over the red nether bricks that are already here. So I use this command to mask only red nether bricks, and now whenever you click, it replaces with the red terracotta. Yeah, World Edit is a really useful mod, and I definitely regret not learning how to use it until now. But it's going to be super convenient for designing any builds that I might have in creative. So once I had that completed build, I just exported it as another schematic and imported it here in survival. I decided that I want to put it right here on top of the hill across from my castle. So it's going to be kind of terrorizing this little medieval village that I have here and looking at the castle buildings. I think I'm quite well prepared for this build. I've got hopefully everything I need, a lot of these red nether bricks and obsidian, which are pretty expensive to get. And the build should be kind of complex, even though it isn't too many blocks. I think just about 8,000. But since it is such a complex shape, we're going to need to be scaffolding around a lot, especially for these wings. Okay, this build is going to be a really long one, so here's to hoping that the replay mod time-lapse is not going to fail. Let's hit it. Okay, welcome back everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the time-lapse. I'm not done the build yet, but I think it's going really well. We're making good progress. So far, we've got done most of the wings and the legs, as well as the bottom of the body. Alright, but still to go, we have a lot of stuff. We have to do the whole body there, and the tops of the wings, and we're also going to have some spikes on top of it, which you might have seen in the creative build. Fortunately though, I think everything that we have to do that's left should be quite a bit quicker than what we've already done. because we spent a lot of time just building up the scaffolding because we had to start low down for all of these sticking out bits from the wings like this, and now that we have a good flat platform to work off of, it should be a lot easier just to build up from this. As for resources, I think we're doing pretty well. We have used almost half of our nether brick, as well as most of the red terracotta, but we should still be on track to not run out of blocks. Okay, progress update is over now. Let's get back to the time lapse. Okay, the time lapse is done, and here's, I guess, the completed build. I didn't want to get rid of the scaffolding in the time lapse because I was worried that would mess it up, so let's take that all down and have a good look at it. All of the scaffolding has now been removed, and I actually think this made it look a lot better. It looks more like a completed build rather than just an in construction thing. Once again, this build is just purely aesthetic, and I just wanted to have it here to add to the whole vibe of the area. But I think it looks really good, and I have definitely achieved my goal. There's just a couple more things that I want to do before I can just completely be done with it. The first thing is down where the dragon's feet are. They're not really firmly planted on the ground. I might want to do a little bit of terraforming around here to make it look like it's standing more nicely. First of all, I just want to put a grass platform around where the feet are. I can try to smoothen this out with some dirt in certain places, but I think in a lot of the places it's going to look nicer if we just do one of these cliffs that I've done a bunch of other times around here. This is going to be a more lazy one. I'm just going to use stone, I think. Alright, that looks a lot better now. I'm just going to leave it at that, I think. Now on to the next problem. I think the next problem is just these chests which are getting in the way here, so I'll just get rid of them quickly. Okay, there we go. All of the chests are gone, looking very nice. Now let's move on to the next problem. This one's kind of annoying. I never actually thought about this when I was building it. I usually play with the gamma override on, which makes everything look really bright, but if I turn it off, you can see that this dragon casts a lot of shadows, and I don't really care if it's spawnable because I have the mob switch, but it's just gonna look ugly though. So I probably should just put down a bunch of torches around here or something until I have a more permanent lighting solution. Okay, fine. I guess I will be at least a little bit fancy with it. I'll use some glowstone and cover it with oak leaves. And since I'm here at my witch farm to pick up the glowstone, I do have something else to show you. It's over here on the nether side. A couple episodes ago, I showed you this station that I built on my ice road that will stop your boat when it comes by here if you press the note block over there. And the version that I built actually turned out to be a little bit unreliable, and it wasn't working every time the way that I had it. So I spent a while trying to come up with a better idea, and I actually got something quite genius. So to give us an extra block of extension space along with these double piston extenders, I added on a trapdoor at the end, but the thing is that trapdoor needs to be flipped up for most of the time and then flipped down when we want to trigger it. So basically I set up this signal inverter that comes off of the same system. So basically, as long as I don't press this button, these trapdoors should be up, and then as soon as I press the button, the trapdoor should be put down, and the system should trigger. It's really cool. And here's what the system looks like when it's actually in action. Okay, back to lighting now. The main priority is going to be these red areas, and the yellow ones don't really matter too much. I'll only light them if I think it fits the theme. Alright, basically all of the shadows on the ground are now gone, and the lighting is pretty subtle, at least when it's on the ground, but I had to put some of them on the cliff over there, and that definitely doesn't look as good because I couldn't put the glowstone under it, so I tried to put it beside it. But that's as good as it's gonna get, I think. I think it's time to move on now, and right below the dragon, we have this big empty area of our village that we haven't really started building houses in yet, even though I have a few laying out. And I think having these buildings missing really hinders the view quite a bit, especially because I put these ugly slime blocks here. So I do want to get rid of those and put in some proper buildings as soon as possible. Okay, so now I think it's back to this little road area that I recreated in creative mode where I've been planning out a lot of my builds. The next one that I've laid out the outline for is going to be that really big apartment sort of complex. So this is just going to be a big living area for a lot of people. I don't want to show you too much of the design process because I want the build to be a surprise, but I think I have a good plan now. I kind of want to split up this build into a bunch of separate buildings, which are basically just going to be squished together into this one big building. And I've put down the posts here for the corners of each part of the build. Okay, I have finally finished up with that design of the large building, and there's no more time for dilly-dally. I should start building it immediately. So, yeah, let's do that now. Alright, welcome back guys, hopefully you enjoyed the time lapse. As you saw, I finished up the build, and I'm very happy with it. Let's go take a look. The design that I chose is pretty simple really. I followed the outline that I had in creative, and I designed different parts of the build to fit the same style that I have elsewhere in my town. And I just designed a bunch of them and squished them together into this one complex building. On the right side here, we have a build that's kind of like that one that I did over there, where I have the brick bottom and I have an overhang with this white part up here and the tall roof. In the middle here, we just have a little entrance to the inside of the building. We can check that out later. Over here, we have a cabin themed part that fits with the cabins that I've got over here, but it's a little bit shorter, and the roof is only like half of a roof. Around the back here, we have another one of the brick and plaster builds, and I made this one a little bit longer and more skinny. I like that look definitely, and also I really like this roof arch that I came up with. It's a very light slope, but it also has a lot of detail in it, so I like it. And the final part of the build here is this gray section with the black stone roof. I kind of built this to fit in with that one over there because I said I wanted to blend it in a little bit more. And I don't know if I fully achieved the blending, because it does still stand out from the rest of the building quite a bit, but I think it looks fine. As usual, the inside here is pretty simple and undecorated. We just have the floors and some lighting. And you might notice in this building, the roofs are quite a bit shorter than the other ones. That was a purposeful decision, because this building is kind of a shorter one. Alright, I'm still hoping to get a little bit more work done on the village today, and I think I'm going to ignore those spots at the back there for now, and focus on these ones that are more easily visible. And some quick things that we can do to get rid of some of these green things are to fill in 2 wagons there. Okay, let's take a look at those carts now. They're pretty simple. I just made one over here that's carrying some wheat, like from the farm or something. One thing that I thought was cool is I made the carpet look like a hay bale. And over here, we have another one that's like transporting some chests. And I use these rails as like ropes to tie the stuff down. Yeah, the village is really starting to fill in quite nicely, and I have a little bit more that I want to do before I am done with the episode. This house right here needs to be built, and this is just going to be a small house kind of on the outskirts of town. And I want to do another sort of log cabin for this, but I already have a few that look like this. I have this one, and kind of this part. So I'm going to try to design some other sort of log cabin to go here. My idea for this is I don't want the building to be very tall, like actually only 2 blocks, and then I think I'm going to do the roof. So we're going to have these corner spruce pillars only go up 2. I want to make these walls out of stripped spruce, and we're also going to have a few windows out of the iron bars. I'll also put in some shutters. Now onto the roof, I want it to be a pretty simple shape, just out of stairs, with a dark oak trim and the main part being spruce. Okay, I'm all done with the little log cabin. All I did off camera was finish up the roof and add some little windows and a chimney at the back. So yeah, this is probably my simplest build, but I kind of like it and it definitely fits in. Okay, the episode has probably been going on for a pretty long time by now. But I just have one more thing that I want to build and then we can be done. So I wanted to have this little watchtower building here that's kind of an outpost of the castle buildings up there. So I want to build a little tower down there that's kind of in the same style as my castles that looks over the village. I'm going to put down the tower right here where I've already plotted the circle and just go up a few blocks until I think it looks high enough. Okay, this should be tall enough that we can observe the entire village from up here, but it doesn't really obstruct the view of the castle from the village center. So I've started to build the roof here, which is going to be made of prismarine, but I also want to include some spruce and bone blocks. Okay, the main tower bit is done now. There's just one more piece I want to add. I've outlined a smaller build down here, and I want to have a andesite and concrete powder small building here that's going to try to blend the styles a little bit more. Okay, I'm done the attachment there now, and I guess I'm finally done with the tower build. And at this point, the village has come together quite well, and it doesn't really look unfinished anymore. It's actually very nice. So I think we're finally at a good point where we can finish off the episode. And I'm really happy with the progress on this village that we've been able to do in just a couple episodes. And of course, the massive dragon build, which I really like the look of. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. I'm getting pretty excited for updating to 1.17 in one of the episodes probably pretty soon. So I guess thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.
Barbeno's World, Barbeno's World.